Welcome to the Beyond the Event podcast, your home for exclusive tips, trends, and stories from local event professionals. So get ready and let's go beyond the event.
Okay, welcome in everybody to the Beyond the Event podcast. Got a very special guest. I'm happy and proud to say that he's a good friend of mine, and we've actually worked together in the past. We order all of our apparel from him. We have Hunter Strine from Maryland Print House today, so we're going to dive right in. Going to be a little bit business oriented today, and still going to be talking about the event space and how he helps a lot of people with event promotional items, etc. And let's just dive right in. As always, we like to get started on just a quick backstory. So Hunter, take it away and I'll introduce everybody with who you are and what you do.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm Hunter Strine, founder and CEO of Maryland Print House, along with my two other founders, Andrew and Andrew. So basically, we started Maryland Print House out of a need for ourselves. We have two sister companies, Creators Label and Every Locker, that we had started years ago. Creators Label was kind of, when I first got into the business, I started screen printing in my parents' garage for a surf brand that I started when I was a sophomore in high school, and was just selling T-shirts, trying to get wholesale accounts with K-Coast, all those surf shops at the beach in Ocean City. And I went to place my first purchase order and realized how expensive it was to, order inventory. Not selling that much, a couple sales here and there. And so once I got out of high school and into college, I realized I hate college, and I was playing soccer for Augsburg, and I really wanted to prove my parents wrong, and prove everybody wrong. Because, anybody that's had a startup in high school knows, people are not so kind to people that want to be successful in high school. So I was just trying to figure out, what it was. And at the time it was early 2016. I was always kind of involved in the YouTube space. Back in the day, there used to be something in YouTube called networks, and networks were the organizations that basically would fund advertising dollars to the influencers. And obviously YouTube in 2015, I think, or somewhere between 2012, 2015, got rid of that, took it over on their own. Now those networks are really responsible for, copyright claims, that kind of thing. But anyhow, I learned a lot about YouTube when I was a kid, and there was a huge opportunity in 2016 because of something called the adpocalypse, and there's been, I think, two of them ever since. And it's when a creator does something like a really large creator, this was, I believe, because of PewDiePie, says something or does something on the platform where their advertisers are advertising on all these videos, but they did something that went against their, beliefs or policies or what have you. So what ends up happening is, because YouTube could not control where the ads are being placed on videos, they decided to pull out of YouTube. So what this did was it had a negative, obviously, impact on creator revenue because there was less advertisers on the platform. And so there was this huge opportunity for merch. And that's kind of when merch started to become a thing. YouTuber merch, your Jake Pauls of the world, you started to see them push merch really hard because they were trying to compensate for the lost revenue from their ads, their ad earnings. So we got into that space right at the perfect time. And we're sending thousands and thousands of cold emails to influencers. We built a script that could scrape data off YouTube, pull influencer emails, and we're just really successful. And this was the summer going into my sophomore year. And so in the first 3 months of the company, we surpassed 600,000 in revenue and knew that we had something serious. Obviously for me, this was my first time being a part of something that obviously scaled this quick, but also was as large as it had become so fast. And so there's a lot of learning involved with that. But we had a little shop in Cumberland and a manual press, and we didn't have capacity, obviously, to handle this. It was really, really quick. We were targeting YouTubers at 1 million subscribers or more. And so, after that, we partnered with a shop here locally and just kind of got it done. And then it got to the point where we were just dissatisfied with all of the partners we were working with. And Maryland Printhouse was kind of born out of the need for quality apparel, but also like lead times being manageable and a lot of different factors is why we brought it in house. So yeah, Maryland Printhouse started kind of out of the need for ourselves, but we knew that the same issues that we were facing as kind of a customer to these screen printing companies, obviously other people were facing the same problem that we're purchasing from them. So we just thought, what better way to take advantage and leverage our business? We already have the income than to offer the same level of service with the technology and stuff that we use today to local businesses and large corporations.
Sheesh. So I knew a little bit, not a little bit, I knew a lot. We've been on a podcast together before. I knew about the backstory. Yeah. I guess I must have forgot or missed that part. Your first 3 months of Maryland Printhouse opening was 600,000.
Creators label.
That was Creators label. Oh,
so the first 3 months, and then the first 6 months, I think we were like 1.2. The first 6 months.
So basically, you proved Mom wrong pretty quickly.
Yeah, so I dropped out of school. yeah.
That's crazy, dude. Yeah, I actually, as you're telling that, I forgot, I guess, the timeline of how things have evolved with social media and online, and how important and really how YouTubers and influencers, so to speak, are rolling merch into it. Like you see the Jake Pauls, and but now there are, if you think about it, there's the ones that sit at the top, Jake Paul, etc. I mean, I'm not big on like knowing all of them, but now if you just go to YouTube and in a quick scroll, you're going to find somebody. And now TikTok, I would say, we'll dive into how TikTok has maybe changed compared to the YouTube boom. Yeah. And, but I never realized your connection to, I was just thinking Maryland Printhouse. I didn't realize your connection to selling merch or developing merch for YouTubers and really having them create a personal brand. If you don't mind sharing, who would you say is one of your biggest accounts or YouTubers that really hit it off with you?
Yeah. So back in the day, I mean, so YouTubers are very ebbs and flow, right? So like they'll grow really fast and maybe fall off. So like it's a very short lifespan. But back in the day, so the second largest YouTuber in the world was a guy named Herman Garmendia, Spanish YouTuber. We had his girlfriend, Lene. She had like 6 million. We worked with Cash Nasty. We did all Cash Nasty's fax merch, which was pretty big. He had 1 million. MMG, Madden Mobile Gods. He did a lot of Madden videos. We did all of his Don't Jewel Not Cool, Say No to Premarital Sex, stuff like that. That did really well. Ludwig Agron, he's one of the largest, or was the largest Twitch streamer, did all of his Mogul Moves merch. So we did a lot of creators, and our biggest, like, I like to pride ourselves on being the merch company that doesn't get in your face. Like there's companies that have filed bankruptcy now that were much larger than us. But everything was on their website. They were very like focused on their brand rather than the influencers. And a lot of the companies in this space, like, which is part of the reason we're building Shirt Desk. We can talk about that maybe another time. But like, they're tech companies first, so they don't manufacture. So you end up having this, like in our world, a contract customer that is just bad at managing their money. They know how to grow. They know how to get funding and all of this stuff, but they don't know how to produce product, and they don't know how to do it efficiently. And so there's a lot of turnover on large organizations in this business, because a lot of tech guys think, oh, I can go into the merch space, but they don't recognize how important it is to understand the manufacturing part. So I think that you've seen some really large companies go under because of that. And so I don't know. I think like the influencer game, it's not something massive that we do now. We only have retained like one client throughout. Again, they fall off, or it's gotten a lot more political in that space over the years, with managers and agents becoming a thing. Back then, it was like you're emailing the guy that's making the videos, or maybe they have a manager. But like now, it's like all of these talent agencies in LA or Chicago, wherever they are, like just have inside deals with like huge corporations. So it's a lot harder to like talk to the person that makes the decision ultimately, or even influencers give up their rights to make those decisions. So it's just, gotten tough. The largest one we work with today is Kenneth Kirkland or the Neff guys. They're pretty large on TikTok. So yeah.
Yeah. Mentioning TikTok, has that changed anything, I guess, with the creator label side of things? Has TikTok evolved how you do things, or is it just a new birth of technology that has really either positively or negatively impacted you with the competition in this space?
No, I think it's all good. I mean, I think what we've noticed since 2016, and I think in 10 years we've seen it dramatically, is like the attention span of humans is just so much lower, and so like those shortcut videos are just so much more successful. The downside to it is advertising, and that's why you see TikTok is adding longer form content, because it hurts advertisers. But I mean, at the end of the day, I think TikTok's good. I think it does good stuff for us, and it's overall good for creators. I just think it's just different. It's a lot harder to sell a product on TikTok than it is to sell. I guess it's better to say it's a lot harder, I think, to retain a cult like fan base with a short video. That's kind of why you see Joe Rogan being so successful, right? The longer the content is, the more you're able to like relate to this person. At least that's my thoughts on it. And so it's a lot harder, I think, to sell product on TikTok than it would be on something like YouTube, where the fans actually care about you,
And shifting more towards the event space, I know I've seen your company online being a part of the Hoffa golf tournament and providing material, and more so. Well, first, let's start with this. If you had to guess, and I'm sure you have the data to back it up, but like, do you want to be known more as apparel or all print related things, such as like, can you literally print on anything and that's what somebody could come to you for?
So I think that's a good question. I would say that we want to be known for creating, so the only stuff that we really manufacture in house is apparel. And so that's, what we're doing in our space. Online stores is another big one for like teams or corporations, things of that nature. But we do everything. So it's important to say that. It's just, we really have a lot of control over the apparel. So hats, anything like that. But we sell any promotional product you can imagine. We print on it. I just try to be transparent. It's like we can probably get the best price and beat a price from any other vendor on pens, or whatever. But we're really good at apparel.
And with apparel, I'm only assuming, again, trying to keep it pretty central to the event space, is like, if somebody's holding a fundraiser, or I just ran a half marathon in Annapolis in December, and they give away a t-shirt to every runner and stuff. Like, is that something that is that like your bread and butter when it comes to maybe the corporate side or the festival side of things? Like, you're big into all of that?
100%. Yeah. I mean, volume is the name of our game, so the more volume we can get, the better. Just because these machines move quick and they got to move all day long. So, I mean, apparel, stuff like that is exactly what we want.
Now, when it comes to maybe a big size event like that, what about maybe printed stuff? Like, there's a ton of posters and pamphlets and flyers and signs and stuff like that. You could do all that too.
Yeah. So typically what we do is we try to target, like, obviously, our team will sell whatever to anybody, but we try to look at, like, what is the opportunity here? Can we do the apparel and can we do everything else? It's not like, let's look at like what else they are doing and then, focus on the apparel. It's like, is there an opportunity for apparel here or large promotional product spend? Then, we want them. But like I said, it will sell anything. It's just a matter of, can we curate a package that makes sense? We want to make it a one-stop shop for you. That's always been our goal. I mean, if you have an event coming up and you need all these needs, we can probably supply them. And that's what we try to do in most cases. I don't want to make it apparel centric, but like, just to speak on what we do here, that's our bread and butter.
So let's talk about that to help maybe some listeners, if they're in this space to have an event or hold an event and they need, something that you can provide for them, is walk us through the process, and especially primarily maybe on the, we've ordered from you, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 times almost every year. And we're talking that's like apparel for a company, to just have for their team or for whatever. But I'm thinking more along the event space side, that if you have, like, take a Annapolis run, for example, that might be 5,000 shirts that you have to get through the press. When you're dealing with whoever's running that organization, or I'm sorry, that event, what are some tips, tricks, mistakes, or things that just maybe educate the listeners on things they could overcome by not falling into the same mistakes that others would make? Like, how do you make for a smooth process when you're dealing with such a high volume of product?
I think the mistake a lot of procurement people make, or people that are doing the purchasing, is they look at price. And I think with any industry, that's always a challenge. But I think the best way to really combat that is to look deeper into the company, read their story. What's their website look like? I think a lot of credibility is built around a website, and I think it's important to have a good one. And I think that what you find, at least in like the bidding process of a lot of bids or whatever, is you have a lot of companies coming from Texas to bid on stuff, or wherever, that are really just salespeople that are then subbing the work to somebody like us. And so, we offer contract work, and we love our contract customers, and it's something we enjoy doing. And just to break that down for listeners, it's basically somebody that says they do shirts, but they're really just sitting in an office in their home, and they sell them. And then we give them special, industry pricing for, the sale, basically. But you want to find people that are actually doing the work, because they're the ones that control the lead time. They're the ones that control the quality. So if you can get to the source, I always advise that, because we try to do the same thing. We want to get to the source of whoever we're purchasing from, and not a middleman, because that's how issues come up. And I mean, they come up, direct too, but there's a lot more control when you're direct.
Yeah. The event space, you mentioned Texas, and others may be competing on price or whatever. I guess that would be more of the, I guess you call them big box companies. Like,
maybe not.
The first one that comes to mind is like Custom Ink or something. But when you mention that,
sure.
Do you service? You're not just, I mean, it's Maryland Print House, but you service all over, right?
All over, yeah. So some of our largest accounts are in Texas, or large construction companies that aren't even from around here. But yeah, so we ship everywhere.
That's insane. That to me breeds a ton of opportunity, because I feel like there's a never ending, like, I keep referring, just because it's top of mind, is like that Annapolis with those t-shirts at the last race I did. There's races all across the country. So if you were able to maybe hook up with, and those companies probably, let's just say it's like Runners USA or something, just making that up. Like, that's probably an organization that holds multiple runs, everywhere. So it's like, to me, that would be the big account to deal with. And then I was just curious how either challenging or down to a science you have it with dealing with just moving so much product. And then not to mention like timelines and deadlines and things of that nature. Yeah. If I was holding, and let's keep in mind, like maybe a large event, and I need, what would you say is high volume for you? 10,000 items or something?
5 to 10,000. Yeah.
5 to 10. And if you need to move 10,000 items, what's the timeline look like? When would somebody holding that size of an order, what like, is it like a week is just impossible? Is it a month?
Our goal is always to be 2 weeks or less, and we're actually working really hard this year to get that to a week. So I mean, it's just hard work, Press operators, they work their ass off, it's just hard work, it's just keep feeding the machine, shirts. So, but I mean, to talk a little bit more about the events, like a lot of these guys, it's all a race to the bottom. So we're not interested in that. Like, we're really trying to be a quality, like, we could go and buy the cheapest inks. We could go and buy like cheap equipment. We could, hire people for dirt cheap, but like, sure. Although, it's really challenging having different minimum wages in different states that are really close by. But at the end of the day, like, that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to build a quality brand. And when people come to Maryland Print House, they're getting a great experience, but also they're getting an exceptional product in comparison to the next guy. And so I think that comes at a cost to us. We're not bidding on, crazy volume jobs all the time because we know we're just not interested in the price they're going to do it for.
Yeah. Well, speaking as a customer, this was, I want to say maybe 2-3 years ago when we placed an order with you. One of your reps in there made a really good point for me when you brought up price being, combative. And I think that's across any industry. We deal with it. Everybody's always going to, piece of top of mind have price. What's this thing going to cost me? So I wasn't even looking at it on trying to nickel and dime and keep costs down. I was looking at it as the usage. So I was like, look, and I forget who I was talking with in your office, but I was like, look, I just need, a cheap shirt that we just want to kind of give away as a promotional item for people. Like here, have a t-shirt here. And I just wanted to slap a logo on it and call it a day. And I can't remember in the office, but they said to me or emailed, you got to think about it. Like, you're representing your company. Do you really want to give them something that's just going to be thrown in the closet and they're never going to wear it? Or do you really want to, spend a couple extra bucks per item and they actually enjoy it? It's comfortable and it looks good, et cetera. And I feel like that just, I guess, speaks more about the company. Like you said, you're judging off of a website. I'm judging off of, like, you take pride in it. Like, when you touch a good piece of apparel that you're like, okay, this is nice. And you take pride in it. So I'm not going to lie. It's all credit to you guys that I kind of looked at apparel a little bit differently. Because of course, before that, I was just trying to get as many items as possible at the lowest cost. But then we have a little quote that we live by, and I learned this a long time ago: buy nice or buy twice. So you also think about that, like with longevity. I mean, you're giving away shirts or whatever, or you're buying apparel for your team. Well, if you're buying the cheap stuff, what's the team going to say? They're going to say, hey, I need new shirts. It ripped, or it's faded, et cetera. Like, so I'm not going to say we go to, max name brand stuff, but I will say, like, I keep it in mind that I'm trying to look for a good quality item now. And it's just changed a lot for me.
Bring up a great point, and that's I sometimes I even forget. It's just so ingrained into our culture, like to speak on that kind of stuff, because it's like, it's so true. Like, if you get a shitty shirt from the company, like, you're never gonna wear it again. But if it's a sick design and it's like, somewhat decent, people are gonna wear it and they're gonna represent you, and that's the value in buying the shirts. So
Right.
I think, like, you're right, that you bring up a great point. I mean, there's a lot of value in considering, the product, because it's the difference between someone wearing it and somebody not,
Right.
in a lot of cases. So a lot of people, though, like, there's definitely a case, to be made about, there's certain circumstances where, it doesn't matter at all. But I think in a lot of cases it does.
Do you deal with, when we think about events, like, I'm thinking more, I guess you could say my first focus on the apparel side was maybe custom ink, but maybe Vistaprint, dealing with businesses or events in terms of promotional products. I'm thinking like invitations or any like card printing or invitations. Like, do you deal with like things of that nature?
We do. It's something we try to teach our customers. If there's better solutions than us, paper printing is just not something that has a lot of margin, so it's better to go direct. And like, the average order value is super low. So it's not that we stay away from it. If the volume's there, we'll do it. But a lot of times it's just so much easier, because there's a lot of like, I want it to look like this, or you can go and design that like on those websites and probably get it for close to the same price we're going to sell it to you for. And we always advise to do that. Like, we want to relieve as much liability as we can with anything that we're not, like, we can't say we're great at, so paper printing is one of those things. And we do a lot of folders for like large companies, things that are repeatable and high volume. We do, because we can beat the price they're getting it at. But I would say for a lot of the paper stuff, outside of like cups and things of that nature that are more promo oriented, we try to steer the customer in a different direction. And we have good vendors that we trust that we, send them to. So we'll still work with you through the process. It just, we might not be the ones doing it.
Yeah. Something we like to talk about on this podcast is trends, in terms of trends through what you do and what you're seeing with your market, your space, with apparel, with events, anything related to Maryland Print House. What are some trends you're seeing that, whether it's digital and online, like different technologies, different strategies, different, it could be, business oriented. What are some trends you're seeing in your space?
AI, obviously. I think that's like the elephant in the room in every industry. We talked about it a little bit before, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so instrumental to our business now. And I think anybody that's not integrating it into their business is going to fall behind. I think it's kind of similar to, the dot-com boom in a sense. Like it literally makes your workload 50% of what it was if you just leverage it the right way. Um, it's not quite there with art yet, but it's good for, getting ideas, things like that. So, I mean, we're seeing a lot of people in our industry move towards the tech space, and trying to like do something. Um, Everybody talks about, will screen printing be around in 50 years or whatever? I think there's always a place for it. But there's constantly new evolutions in the decoration world. One of the things we were one of the first to bring to market here is direct to film. We were probably one of, if not the first, supplier of DTF, which really, really helps with low volume one-off runs, to overtake something called direct to garment, and it's going to phase that probably process out completely. So there's a lot of changes happening in our space. We're seeing a lot of people getting rolled up. There's a lot of stuff going on, but I think for the most part, the biggest one is definitely AI.
Well, yeah, I was trying to design a logo for this podcast, and I already landed on, I just wanted something simple to get it rolling. And then I got curious after I made the logo, and I typed it into Chat GPT, and I showed my sales rep, Rachel. I was like, look at this shit. This is better than what I put together. And I literally just said, make me a logo for Beyond the Event podcast. And it just hold up. And it was better than mine.
That's
I'm
crazy.
like, that's the capabilities. And then we were talking earlier about, you're trying to personalize it into your business and kind of make your own in-house essentially, because it can learn. Like that's the thing that we're at the early stages of it. I mean, it's been out, but it's like the power behind it and the capabilities behind it is just getting started, because once you touch on that personalized aspect, you're not going to know who you're talking to in a couple of years, whether it's a human or a robot.
The robots, I mean, that too is going to be huge. I think in the next year or two, we're going to see robots on the floor of production plants, and it's going to change the world, and it is changing the world slowly. So it's going to be something we have to leverage.
Yeah, for sure. I know you mentioned this earlier and you wanted to touch base on it. Let's hit real quick. What is Shirt Desk?
So Shirt Desk, speaking of AI, is going to be. So we started the project 3 years ago, the development of it. You might remember the early stages, maybe, but we're still in development. We actually have our MVP on Shopify ready to go. But the idea is, and this exists already, so there's going to be some things that are proprietary that we're working on I can't share. But the idea is, at first, it's going to just be a POD platform that plugs into your current website. You can sell merch. You don't have to carry inventory. You mark it up. You like, we produce and ship and fulfill for you. You just get a base cost. You can load it on your site, whether you want to sell to your customers, your employees, whatever. You just have to have a Shopify account, Etsy account, whatever. Then phase 2 is we're building Shirt Desk stores. And so Shirt Desk stores is going to allow you to roll up your own store, not having to integrate into a website. And phase 3 is where the proprietary info comes in. Put it this way, the idea is that with filling out like 3 to 5 form fields, it'll be enough information for us to launch you a website for your company with very little information, with the perfect products for your industry, your brand, everything, and completely build a website for you with very limited information. So like that's the long-term vision of it, and whatever it turns into from there, it turns into. But it's gonna be great. Just very expensive, very time-consuming.
It sounds disruptive though, and it sounds like it's game-changing. And what would you say would be the timeline that you're looking at for people to have more information, or just really more of a launch?
Yeah, so obviously we're doing this on our own budget. I fully funded this, and the company has just kind of started to get involved. We should have the entire Shopify POD platform ready to go um, within 6 months. So you'll
Wow.
be able to go on Shopify, build it. We already have the app done. We just had to change the way we're managing orders on the back end. So I wanted to make sure it was done right before we launched it to public. But the whole project, phase 2 and phase 3, we could be looking at a year or two before
Yeah.
that's done. But yeah, so there'll be more to come this year, hopefully. A
Yeah.
lot more.
That's great. That's great, dude. Well, if there's anything we can know or learn, you mentioned the website and especially your new place. I've been out to your new place and just seeing you grow, not only personally, but through the business, just the product itself and your machines. I know you mentioned when we talked to Wallet, like maybe a year or two ago, you got a new press machine, and, I'm looking at those arm things going down. You got all the paint and colors. I don't know all the terminology in the apparel space, but what you're building out has always been quality, and the designing of your rooms and your offices. If anybody is local to the area in Westminster, you definitely got to check out Hunter Space, Maryland Print House.
Yeah.
I guess the closest way to say it would be it's by the airport, and give them a quick tour. But yeah, we knew this would be a little short, but I just really appreciate you hopping on today, chatting a little bit about what you do and how you can impact the event space, and dealing with maybe high-end accounts and such. But it was a pleasure. And if anybody wants to connect with you, Hunter, where do they go?
Yeah, you can look us up on Instagram, Facebook, you name it. Maryland Print House. You can email me directly at hunter@mdprinthouse. Happy to answer any questions you have. And thanks for having me on, Jed. I appreciate it.
Yep, absolutely.